All right, all right. Welcome, everyone. Today we have a sort of impromptu IOTA talk because we have a very exciting release today. I think next to the Chrysalis upgrade, smart contracts is probably the most desired and also the most impactful release for IOTA, simply because it allows us to go from a protocol where you can do transactions in a very efficient manner to a protocol that you can program with, right? And I think this sort of jump from the current IOTA 1.5 version to this IOTA programmable multi-asset ledger is sort of the main theme over the next few months. I think it's really important that we give you guys the insights into what that actually means and why it's important, and really just give you the information that is needed to also participate more, right? Because at the end of the day, we are here to build an ecosystem together with all of you. So today we are doing a specific show on smart contracts. Maybe something beforehand, right? So the release just started today. And what the release included was the launch of the smart contracts node software, right? The entire network is basically online now. So that means you can actually deploy your own node. You can join the smart contracts network. And obviously the main highlight of all of this is you can deploy and you can interact with smart contracts. And that's sort of the main thing that we'll dive into today, but we'll also give you guys a lot more information, right? In like tutorials, how-tos, and guides, and also like more example use cases over the next few days and weeks, so that all of you can really participate and engage in this release. Something important to keep in mind is that the release is on the 2.0 DevNet, i.e. the fully decentralized version of IOTA. The main reason for that is this is still a beta version, right? So we want to make sure that the software itself works and functions properly. And we are right now working on the sort of integration of smart contracts and the integration of tokenization on the mainnet, right? But we'll dive deeper into that. So let me share my screen. And if you have questions, by the way, I'm going to try and do YouTube questions in the end, which is always a little bit risky, but let's give it a try in the end. 1 second. So let's start with Chrysalis. Let's start with a new dawn. It's kind of crazy, by the way, that this happened in February, right? So it's been 9 months since roughly 9 months since we had this, and it's crazy how quick time flies and how much is happening all the time, right? But let's take a step back, right? IOTA was started in 2015, and it was started with a certain mindset of the future, with a certain like hypothesis of how the future looks like and the trends of the future. And over the last few years, some of these trends, some of these decisions that we've made in the early days clearly were disproven, right? Trinary, Winternit's one-time signatures, i.e. quantum resistance for our cryptography, bundles, and some other decisions that we've made with IOTA. And that's why roughly, I think 1.5 years ago, we made the decision to really completely change the IOTA protocol, simply because there were some obvious improvements that could be made by introducing more standard cryptography, but also by applying some exciting new principles, right? And that is exactly what Chrysalis was. Chrysalis was sort of us delivering the best version of the IOTA protocol with a coordinator. And it really was sort of this a new restart for us to usher into a new era, right? And before we could do the very exciting stuff, which is smart contracts and tokenization, we needed to make sure that the base layer, which is IOTA, is actually solid, right? Is actually something that you can reliably build on and that you can reliably use, right? many of you will remember that the times when we had to reattach the transactions. There's actually a funny meme on, let me actually try and find the meme. There's a funny meme about reattaching on, those were basically the old days of IOTA where you really had to prepare yourself to get your transactions through. And today we have a reliable network where transactions confirm in about 10 seconds, where it's scalable, where it's robust, where it's basically ready to build on. And this was the very important premise before we could actually do the more exciting stuff, and before we could go from this single asset ledger, which is really there to do transactional settlement, to this programmable ledger. And so Chrysalis was a big success in that regard, right? It's seen 75% of the supply migrate so far. So that's billions of dollars that were bridged from the old network to the new network in a fully decentralized way, right? So that's very exciting. And we've also seen a lot more increase in developer adoption, right? Applications being built and the exchanges and so on actually integrating IOTA. Now, the big question that you always have to ask yourself is like, what can you really build with the protocol, right? So right now, the focus so far has been on data use cases where you secure data, right? That's why we have Project Alvarium with Dell and those companies. That's why we work with ST Microelectronics, for example, to integrate IOTA into chips so that we can actually secure the data from there. And with that, you can then also extend it, right? You can sort of extend the protocol by relying on some of the frameworks that are built on top of IOTA. Digital identity is one of those frameworks. And the other very obvious use case of IOTA is payments, right? You have a token that you can transfer very efficiently without any transaction fees. But you're sort of limited in that capacity, right? And this is really where smart contracts come into play, because smart contracts go from a limited set of use cases to an unlimited set of use cases, where it's really up to the builder to build whatever they imagine. And this has really been something that we've always strived for to enable on IOTA, because it is a crucial, I would say tool, but also really a crucial feature for us to make IOTA competitive in the market, and to really make sure that IOTA is being utilized in the real world, but also being utilized in the crypto world. And that is exactly what IOTA smart contracts was for. So IOTA smart contracts was properly started, I think, about 2 years ago. It sort of came out of the whole Cubic era or time, and we took some of the pieces of it, namely setting up quorum-based computation, right, and utilize it in a much more efficient, or actually implement it in a much more efficient and actually viable way, right? And the main idea behind smart contracts on IOTA, it's actually relatively simple. Wait, my computer just had an output problem. But the main idea behind smart contracts is relatively simple. You are essentially launching blockchains on top of IOTA, right? We have this base layer, which is IOTA, which is a DAG, right? It's the tangle where we don't have any blocks and we don't have any chain. And the big problem with that is that the transactions are not really ordered, right? And as such, you would actually have a very difficult time doing smart contracts on layer one. And that has always been sort of the criticism of IOTA, that you can't do smart contracts on the base layer. And quite frankly, we never wanted to do smart contracts on the base layer, simply because we always wanted to have this modular approach where you have the base layer, which just does transactional settlement. You can think about the IOTA base layer really as this trust anchor, right? Where you secure data, where you secure assets, the IOTA token, and where you can now also secure smart contracts. And on top of that base layer, you would then actually be able to build your own smart contracts by utilizing the framework that we've built. Now, the way that it works is relatively simple, right? So you have a smart contract, which is sort of its own blockchain network. And in this blockchain network, you have ordered transactions, right, that get secured in these blocks. And each block then gets secured on the IOTA ledger, right? As such, we actually make these smart contracts immutable. So nobody can actually change the smart contract after they've been secured on IOTA, which is obviously crucial for security. And very exciting is that we make these smart contracts now interoperable, because all of these smart contracts that are built on top of the base layer are able to communicate with each other by sending transactions on the layer one. And this was sort of the major thinking behind doing IOTA smart contracts. So we don't build it into the base layer, rather we build it on the layer on top, right? Sort of the second layer, where each smart contract becomes its own blockchain and is being secured by the IOTA network and by the IOTA tangle. And that's sort of the main gist behind it. And it's very easy to explain, right? We're doing blockchains on top of IOTA, which is kind of an interesting and a very exciting thought. Now, it's obviously a little bit more complex than that if we think about the consensus, the state transitions, and all of that. But that's sort of the main summary of it. Now, we had the alpha release earlier this year, and with the alpha release, we mainly wanted to test the sort of concept first, right, to see if it works and to see what is actually possible. And since then, the team has really done a tremendous job in going towards this beta release. And as I already mentioned before, what this beta release includes now is actually the ability to deploy your own nodes and to start building. And that's why we are very excited about this, because usually beforehand, it wouldn't have been reliable enough to build on. But now we actually have the opportunity for all of you to start building. And I would say the major highlight of this release as well is that we support multiple virtual machines. So if you think about this architecture here, ISCP, so IOTA Smart Contracts, is sort of a framework to do smart contracts on top of IOTA, right? The framework actually defines the security, the consensus, the cryptography, and all of that, so that you can then deploy your own smart contract chain. And this smart contract chain is then being secured by the IOTA ledger. Now, the major claim to fame for IOTA smart contracts is its flexibility, right? We don't actually care which kind of smart contracts you run on top. It's an agnostic execution layer, right? Because at the end of the day, the principle is simple, right? We just need to secure the state of these smart contracts. We need to get the requests in, and then we secure it on the base layer, which is IOTA. And what this means actually is that you can run different virtual machines, and you can also utilize different smart contract languages. So unlike other projects who have invested a lot of money into building their own smart contract language, we take a very different approach, and we actually want to adopt as many smart contract languages as possible. And what that means is that you can actually utilize your most favorite smart contract language on IOTA smart contracts, right? So we're starting out with Rust. So you can build smart contracts in Rust that are then being compiled into WebAssembly. You can build them in Go, like a derivative of Go, which is TinyGo. And very important is that you can actually build them in Solidity. And I think this is one of the major points, right? Because at this point, I would say that the Ethereum virtual machine, so the Ethereum virtual machine is sort of defines how the Solidity smart contracts and how smart contracts in Ethereum in general are being executed, right? So we've taken this Ethereum virtual machine from Ethereum, and we've sort of integrated it into our smart contracts framework. That means that today you can actually deploy your own Ethereum virtual machine smart contract chain on top of IOTA, right? And the main reason why that is super important is because now every smart contract that has been deployed on Ethereum can also be deployed on IOTA, right? And it can also make use of the entire ecosystem of tooling, of libraries, of products that have been built by the amazing Ethereum community, and really benefit our smart contract community. And I think this is really an important part of our strategy. Simply because we really believe that we want to, work closely with the Ethereum community and also contribute towards their growth, right? Because Ethereum is the most successful smart contract platform out there, and it is one of the most, I would say, inspiring communities, simply because they've innovated and they have really pushed forward this entire crypto space. So our plan here with adopting the Ethereum virtual machine is to make it easy for all of the developers in the Ethereum ecosystem, but also the developers in the IOTA ecosystem, to start building Solidity smart contracts and to start contributing to this entire ecosystem that has already been built. Right? And I think this is really one of the major strategies of adoption here. And being fully EVM compatible is really crucial to that, because it means that we don't need to invest money and more time into creating our own tooling environment, support, audits and all of that, right? Instead, we can just rely on the existing ecosystem by being fully compatible. And what's also very exciting is that actually this also includes MetaMask. So I wasn't able to connect it before the stream, but you can actually connect your MetaMask already today, and you can interact with IOTA smart contracts. Right? So I think that's really, really exciting, and I think it really answers this question: like, how do we actually want to get adoption for this, and how do we also build bridges? Because by being EVM compatible, it also makes it a lot easier for us to then build a bridge to Ethereum and to allow assets and data to be transferred between both networks. So by the way, the last time I wrote it, I wrote a smart contract, it was in 2015. So I hope that this weekend I'll be able to actually try and deploy it, because that would actually be very fun. By the way, what's up with my, there's something with the video output. I think wait. Anyways, so if you know Solidity, if you have deployed smart contracts before on Ethereum, try it on IOTA. Try it on IOTA smart contracts, because it's worth it's totally worth it, and I think it's a really amazing experience to make use of the ecosystem that we are creating here in IOTA. So here's some good gifts that explain to you what IOTA is all about. I think it's kind of obvious, right? So we have a beta release now that is ready to build on. What really is important to mention as well is what is unique about our solution. So far, the unique selling point of IOTA has always been that it's feeless, right? The base layer is meant to have no transaction fees at all. You send 1 IOTA, you receive 1 IOTA, right? And I think that's actually a very important step towards mainstream adoption. Now, obviously, there's no denial that we're kind of late to the smart contracts game, because Ethereum has been live since 2016, right? I think 2016 was. They have had billions of dollars invested into their ecosystem, which is really great, right? And they have a lot of adoption already. And the question is how do we actually intend to compete, and how is our solution different than others? Why should actually developers care about it? And so I think from our perspective, our focus is really how do we actually reach mainstream adoption? Because today's solutions, they're very exciting, right? But they all have their limitations. They all have their drawbacks. and they actually inhibit growth because of certain architecture limitations, right? For example, in Ethereum today, you still need to have Ether tokens in order to transact with any other kind of dApp, right? With any other type of coin, simply because Ethereum, the Ether token, is being utilized as the gas. And for example, recently I received USDC. I was on a different laptop and I didn't have any Ether tokens. So I was like, damn, like how do I transfer these stable coins now? And I think that's just one example that just shows you that we're still very early in the adoption of all of these technologies, right? MetaMask, which is the most popular wallet, has about 10 million users each month. And the entire crypto space probably has like a few dozen million users, and DeFi probably even less, right? And so we're still very early, and there's some great opportunities here to really establish yourself as a new solution that takes a different approach, has a different architecture than others, and is able to sort of innovate further, and especially innovate on the usability side, right? And I think the usability side has been a big focus when coming up with IOTA smart contracts. One other thing that's very important to highlight is the scalability of all of this, right? The big benefit that we have is we're building on top of a directed acyclic graph, right? We're building on top of the Tangle. What that means is that we don't have any block limits or sizes that are making it impossible to increase like scalability, right? The whole premise of the DAG was that it scales horizontally. And especially IOTA 2.0 is very exciting, where we have this leaderless consensus. But even now, with when smart contracts come onto the mainnet, the DAG offers this very exciting opportunity to simply scale by adding more smart contract chains. And the way that we actually envision this happening in the future is that there will be several smart contract chains that will be public, right? Anybody can join them. Think about it like launching an entire Ethereum network on top of IOTA. So each of these smart contract chains is actually limited to the 25 transactions per second that it can do, simply because of the virtual machine limit. Maybe it can do more, but that's a limitation for each of these smart contract chains. But that is not the limitation of our smart contracts, simply because you can deploy more smart contract chains. And we're talking about thousands of transactions per second that are possible because of this architecture. And I think this is something like once you realize that we don't have these limitations, it really just shows you the beauty of this system, because we are able to shard these smart contracts. So think about one smart contract chain reaching its capacity limit. We're simply able to deploy a new smart contract chain. So we're sort of sharding this environment already, and we can then get full access to the full scalability limit of that particular chain, right? And so we can really scale this entire network horizontally by simply adding more smart contract chains. And the key to all of this is the interoperability, because each smart contract chain that is deployed can then interact with every other smart contract chain in the network. And it offers this beautiful composability, right? So assets from one chain can easily be transferred to another chain. And we really believe that the entire architecture, the way that we've designed it, it offers a unique environment for developers. So we didn't copy other solutions, right? We really built this over the last 2 years from the ground up, and it's very we are very happy, and we are also very excited about the future of these smart contracts, because we truly believe that they solve problems that we are seeing today, and that it really offers a solution to what the market wants. One thing I want to highlight is it's kind of interesting how similar these approaches are, right? Because what we have in Ethereum today is we have rollups, right? We have rollups and sidechains. I think rollups are a lot more exciting in Ethereum, because they take a similar approach as well, where you have the base layer, and then you're able to launch new smart contract chains, so to say, or rollups in their lingo, on top of Ethereum. Now, the difficulty there is actually how do you enable the interoperability and the composability of these different rollups, because each of those is sort of like its own contained environment. And also Polkadot has a sort of similar architecture where they have the relay chain, which is sort of their main hub, and the parachains. And they, like all three of us, I think also Cosmos is also somewhat similar, have a similar architecture and a similar approach. And that just shows you that this is really the way that this is the most sensible approach to build up smart contracts that are actually scalable and that actually are able to meet the demands to go mainstream, right? Obviously, each of those has different like details, how it's implemented and how it's working, but it's sort of like a similar thinking, right? You have one main chain, and then you have different shards or different rollups or different smart contract chains on top. And the key to all of that is like, how do you enable the interoperability, right? Now, let's quickly talk about the key features of all of this. And I think there's only 4 of them, right, or 5. And I mean, the obvious ones are scalability, right? That's already what we mentioned. One of the major innovations of what we're doing is actually our tokenization framework. So if you remember with Chrysalis, the main thinking behind it was actually that we upgrade the base layer to UTXO, which is unspent transaction outputs, and we actually make it possible to program those transactions. So what you can do with that then is you can actually add digital assets, i.e. you can color tokens, or you can also add more complex logic onto the base layer. It basically defines the conditions under which transactions are confirmed, i.e. where they can be spent, or where you can also specifically color or define certain transactions, right, with data and so on and so forth. Now, what we've been working on is obviously defining this tokenization framework for the IOTA mainnet. And the team is currently working on finalizing the proposal, which we'll then publish to the community in the next couple of weeks, so that all of you will better understand what does it actually mean that the IOTA base layer becomes programmable. What it really means for us is that now we have a layer 1 where we can do tokenization, where we can do digital assets, NFTs and all of that. And very exciting, where we then have these interactions with the layer 2. And both of them can actually interact with each other freely, right? Because IOTA transactions are for free. You don't have to pay any transaction fees. And this is really where we see a lot of where we will see major innovations happening, where layer 2 smart contracts offer these limitless opportunities, and where layer 1 acts as this sort of very stable, very robust framework for doing tokenization. Now, the main reason why that is exciting for our smart contract solution is because the IOTA layer is not just being used as a trust anchor for smart contracts, but is also being used actually as this interoperability framework. If you create an ERC20 token in your smart contract chain, you can actually wrap it or transfer it to the layer 1. And then with that asset on layer 1, you can then like transfer to another smart contract, or you can just keep it on layer 1. Right? So all of these assets within this IOTA ecosystem, or COSM, or whatever we call it, are fully composable, right? They can be transferred around. The smart contracts can interact with each other. And it really offers new possibilities for this notion of Lego blocks, right? We have this in DeFi where smart contracts interact with each other by atomically and being able to completely interact with each other and transfer assets from one dApp to another dApp. And all of that will be possible on IOTA without any transaction fees. And I think that's I would say that this will be one of the major enablers for innovations on top of IOTA. And that also means that every smart contract that is deployed on IOTA is fully connected to every other smart contract, right? And this is a trustless bridge, you can think of it. There's no relay, there's no committee, there's no trust or stuff like that, but it's really done through the IOTA ledger, which is very exciting, right? The second thing that is, one of the major innovations of IOTA smart contracts is the flexible development environment. What we're trying to achieve here is that that you can build dApps that are really tailored to your needs. You can utilize your favorite smart contract language or virtual machine, and you can go even further than that, where you can even define the transaction fees that you want to charge within your network, or where you can also define the incentives for the validators of your smart contract. And this is really where we want to push for new innovations. And we really believe that by giving developers this freedom to define these important settings, that we can help push towards mainstream adoption, because with a feature like this, you can actually even go feeless for some of these smart contracts, right? I think most smart contracts on top of IOTA will charge fees in one way or another, right? Because the validators need to be incentivized for doing their work. But there's also the opportunity to really go feeless, simply because you can give different incentives to the validators. Think about deploying your own smart contract chain with its own token, and then giving this token as an incentive to the validators. And with that, you can actually not charge any fees, transaction fees, for your users. And that's really a very exciting avenue for developers to innovate on the usability side, right? Not just innovate on tokenomics or like hardcore financial incentives and so on, but really innovate on the usability side, which is where we also will see the next major innovations happening, right? We want to go mainstream. The third feature is that we already have sharding, right? This is already what I mentioned before. Fully EVM compatible. This is also what I already mentioned. And with this, we'll also be building a sort of bridge towards Ethereum. And already today, you can build smart contracts in 3 different languages. And I would say, like, what we're trying to achieve with all of this is we're still, like today, we've launched a beta of IOTA smart contracts. And there's still stuff to improve. We still have to port it over to the mainnet. But we have a very clear path towards implementing all of this stuff and making it possible to actually and enable this entire framework here on IOTA, right? Now, the major call to action actually is that now is the time to build, because the virtual machines are going to stay, right? WebAssembly will stay the same. The Ethereum virtual machine will stay the same. The only thing that is going to change over the next few months is the base layer, where we're going from the IOTA 2.0 DevNet to the IOTA mainnet. And I think now is really the time where all of you, especially the builders among you, are encouraged to start building, because now we're really starting to build an entire new ecosystem, right? And this new ecosystem is launching on top of IOTA. And there's NFT marketplaces to build, there's DeFi stuff to build, there's play to earn games to build, and all of those innovations that happened on the other networks, we envision that all of them will also happen on IOTA. And we want to enable them. We want to empower all of you to start building them. And we want to empower all of you to actually realize these opportunities, because there's there's a lot of value to be created here. But we want you guys to go even further than that, right? There's entire new innovations that haven't even been built yet. We're still early, and we're really going. We are absolutely serious about smart contracts and about our positioning in the market as one of the solutions that innovates further than other solutions, and that really offers an exciting environment to host those innovations. And so I think now is really the time to get involved. So if you're a builder and you're new to IOTA, please join our Discord and reach out to our amazing team, or just reach out to the community, right? And we want to support you in all of this. So this is just some stuff about what's new in this release. Off-ledger requests is actually one of the major reasons why this can really scale well. Maybe just something real quick. Off-ledger requests is basically where you send the transaction, your request transaction, directly to the smart contract chain instead of going through IOTA, right? And so this really enables us to scale much, much further. The schema tool, which is also part of this release, is specifically meant for developers, so that you can easily deploy your smart contracts. And I think Eric actually did a really, really exciting talk about it. So if you're a developer, definitely check it out. This is primarily for, I think, TinyGo and for Rust. For Solidity, we have a whole ecosystem to benefit from. So one of the other, one of the other things that we really wanted to launch with was actually demos. One of the fun ones that we just did was an IOTA roulette, and I can see the community is still playing. And the way that this IOTA roulette actually works is that you are basically interacting directly with the smart contract. Right, so we hosted a smart contract. This one is written in Rust, and let me bet on 2. So you're sending your bet to the smart contract. Smart contract gets the bet from all the different players, and very importantly, the smart contract also gets the tokens from the other players. And after the timing is over, the smart contract basically makes a decision by using a provably fair algorithm and the distributed number generator to decide on the number, right, 1 to 8. And once the winning number was chosen, the winners are decided, and the pot is divided amongst them. And this was just meant to be a quick demo so that all of you can have some fun playing around with IOTA smart contracts, and to also make use of some of these unique features that we have with IOTA smart contracts. Did I win? Because basically it's making use of the distributed, the DRNG. Sorry, you lost this round. Try again. All right, I have to try again. Maybe I'll win. Maybe I'll do it live. Let's try it again. But it's making use of the DRNG. It's written in Rust, and maybe it's actually written in Go. I have to check the repository. And yeah, it's written in Go actually. And it's making use of the schema tool. So if you are interested in learning more about how this all works, you can see the contracts here, and also how the interactions and the entire demo basically works. I think one exciting thing about all of this is that you can see all of your transactions live, right? So you can click on your address here, and then you can see all of your transactions as they're happening here. And with that, you can really see that you're interacting with a smart contract, right? This is not a dummy demo, but this is all done live, right? And I think so far we've had 312 rounds. So since the launch of the beta, we had more than 312 rounds being played by the community. You guys are clearly having fun. That's good. Lucky number 8. All right, I'll bet it all. Let's hope I'll make it. But yeah, check out your transactions, because I think that's a lot of fun to see what's happening live. So you can also see the way that the 2.0 DevNet works, right? We have Mana here, for example, and other stuff. And if you want to learn more about the schema tool, and in general, we have an entire wiki, right, where all of this is defined, so you can really learn about how it works and also start building. All right, don't gamble and don't go all in. I guess lucky number 8 wasn't it. But try it out. I think it's a lot of fun. And join our Discord if you're not there yet. Community is having a blast. Yeah, but I think that is good, right? And obviously we have all the documentation. The repository is live. Everything is open. You can also contribute to IOTA smart contracts. You can deploy your own node. And if you want to learn more about how all of this works, I think the best resource is, first of all, the wiki. And the second one is the architecture document. This is around 30 pages. And I can really highly encourage all of you who want to invest more time into understanding how the consensus works, how the VM abstraction, the cryptography, and the committee stuff works. The architecture document is the best resource, and is linked in the wiki, but is also in the documentation path on the WASP repo. So let's quickly talk about what's next, and then we talk about the ecosystem, and then I think we can do some quick questions as well. First of all, this was on the IOTA 2.0 DevNet, right? You can think about it like a testnet for IOTA 2.0. It's the fully decentralized version of IOTA, and it's not the IOTA mainnet, obviously, right? Now, the major focus for us is is actually bringing the tokenization framework and bringing IOTA smart contracts onto the IOTA mainnet. And this is really where the team has already begun the work. So we're already starting to implement this stuff. And over the next few weeks, we'll share the sort of RFC. So it's like a technical document that explains how the tokenization will work. We'll share it with all of you so you guys can contribute. I think it's very exciting. It's super exciting, actually, because it's probably going to be one of the key innovations of IOTA. And in the meantime, we are obviously improving the smart contracts framework, and we're then integrating it onto the IOTA mainnet. But as I already mentioned before, now is the time to start building, right? You guys can already start building smart contracts on top of it. So I know of a few teams that are starting to deploy some smart contracts over the next few days, so we can have fun playing around with it. But there's also some more serious teams that are really starting to take this seriously, and that are now really building up entire teams and building up entire projects. One of those is the Tanglesea team. So Tanglesea aims to be the first, or one of the first, decentralized exchanges on top of IOTA. From the looks of it, it looks really good. No insider info. But they've done a tremendous job building their DEX. And over the next week, they will be publishing more information about what Tanglesea is. Maybe they'll do a token. I don't know. Maybe they will deploy some smart contracts and stuff. So we can all have some fun and play around with it. And then there's also the NFT marketplace. And there's a few other projects that you guys will be able to deploy and to try with, right? But I think my main message is now is the time to build. And we are right now setting up all the support so that we can really support our ecosystem on this journey, to go on this journey together with us. So that includes financial support, but that also includes partners, i.e. exchanges, investors, and so on, that we're bringing into the IOTA ecosystem, to help us take this very seriously, right? Because other projects are investing hundreds of millions of dollars into their own ecosystems. And so we are positioning IOTA to really take on the competition here, right? We want to be competitive. And we have a very good strategy on how to do that. And so if you're a developer, if you're a team, now is the time to start building. And please reach out to us, right? Our job is to support all of you. Our job is to enable this ecosystem. So I think this building will be very exciting. The other thing that we're working on is a more functional EVM support, because right now the EVM is sort of contained. It can't interact with the base layer. This is what we are already changing. And this is where you will then really be able to interact go from EVM, your C20 token, to layer 1. But this doesn't change anything about your smart contracts or stuff. So start building. Commitments to the state of the chain. I think there's more of an optimization where we can do state pruning, where it becomes a lot more efficient. I think that's probably less interesting right now. And the tokenization framework, which I already mentioned, where we will have NFTs and really also like sort of entire tokenization on the IOTA base layer. And the last point, and this is probably one of the most important points that I want to make as well on this show, is the permissionless validators. The major drawback of IOTA smart contracts, of this framework here, right? Whenever we talk about IOTA smart contracts, you should think about a framework, right? A framework that helps you to deploy smart contracts on top of IOTA. Now, this framework is sort of agnostic to the way that you choose your virtual machine or to the way that you choose your validators, because each smart contract chain is being secured by validators, right? 20, 30 validators that are securing your smart contract then. The way that it works right now is more permissioned, right? Where you define who the validators are. And that's great for sort of enterprise applications, but it's really not great for DeFi or for anything else. And as some community members have been saying for quite some time, is actually how do we make this permissionless? And we've been working on this for a little over a year now, I would say. And it was a lot of work behind the scenes, but we have really defined the path forward to enable these permissionless validators and to also define how we do this shared security, similar to what Polkadot has achieved, because security is everything, right? And we do not want to have chains that are being attacked or that are being, hostile takeovers or stuff like that, right? We really want to build a robust environment where you just deploy your smart contract and it works. And this is exactly where this permissionless environment comes into play. And the beauty here is that we really have a symbiosis between the layer 1, which is IOTA. By the way, just like a random thought, so IOTA is sort of becoming a layer 0, right? It's like this foundational layer on which you can now deploy new layer 1s, because what we're building with these permissionless smart contract chains, it's more of a layer 1, right? Where you then deploy smart contract chains on top. And so we kind of need to change the narrative around that. But IOTA is the base layer, which then enables this permissionless network of smart contracts to launch and then to be secured by this base layer and to interoperate thanks to this base layer. But this is today the only drawback when it comes to deploying your smart contract chain, because you still have to define the validators that are securing them. So you kind of have to trust them. And this is exactly where we have this solution, or we are working on this solution to make this fully permissionless. So you don't have to trust anybody, and where we use certain mechanics to ensure that this is secure and that validators are incentivized or disincentivized to behave properly. So that is really what we are working on. So if you're a builder, don't worry about permissionless validators, because we are working on that, and we will probably be publishing that at one point once it's ready, no ETAs, and so that all of you can also better understand how it's going to work. But all of the puzzle pieces are sort of coming together, and we're already thinking about how to make IOTA identity, digital identity, streams and other frameworks that we have, make them fully composable and compatible with IOTA smart contracts, so that you can utilize your digital identity that you created on layer 1 in any smart contract that is being deployed on top of this ecosystem. So I think this is a very exciting announcement. Maybe you guys have some questions. Maybe you want to post them in the chat. I'll just quickly mention one more thing. In 10 minutes, actually, I'll try and wrap this up because I also want to watch this. There is going to be a very exciting talk about a new major pilot project that is being done in the Netherlands. And it's done in Emmen. And basically, it's about giving tokens to nearly 100,000 homeowners. So it's like a local community. And reward them for providing data to the municipality, right? So local citizens are being rewarded to help make the environment and make the community better. And this is all done with IOTA, and it's like a perfect example where IOTA smart contracts will enable this tokenization and will enable this coordination between these different systems and these different applications, right? So make sure to watch that live stream as well, because I think that will be a very exciting example of how to tokenize and how to actually solve real world problems. So I think that's very nice. So I hope that was helpful. We are, as I already mentioned, we're going to release a lot more videos and tutorials over the next week. The community will definitely also do a fantastic job in pushing this forward and explaining it in visionary and easy to understand terms, and also start building, right? And next week, we're going to do another AMA so that all of you can actually ask questions, where Dave and Evaldas will join. I think then, if you have any questions, make sure to ask them then during this Reddit AMA. And I think without further ado, I want to give a big thank you to everybody in the IOTA Foundation, and especially to the smart contracts team, because they've done a really tremendous job in making this possible. And it really pushes us from a protocol that can do some use cases very well to a protocol that can do an infinite amount of use cases, right? And it's really about empowering the community now to realize these possibilities that we've created. And I hope that all of you are really encouraged to start building and to start utilizing it, to start contributing. And DAOs will obviously be at the heart of all of this. And so, yeah, I hope that all of you enjoyed the show. If you have any questions, go on Discord. Else we'll have a Reddit AMA next week. And other than that, don't gamble too much with the roulette and actually start building some smart contracts. I think it will be a lot of fun, and I think we're gonna have fun while creating real value, right? And that's what this is all about. It's all about the journey and the impact that we can have. So thank you everybody for joining. Make sure to join the live stream now in 6 minutes, where we're going to talk about tokenization in the Netherlands and doing a real world pilot with nearly 100,000 citizens, right? I think that sounds pretty crazy and pretty exciting.